Hey, what's up guys, welcome back. It's your boy Mondo. On today's episode we have a 2008 6.0 extended cab, crew cab, my mistake, Silverado. So this truck came in for a cam swap. We went ahead and we installed the VVT cam. So what that allows us is it continues to run with the variable valve timing. That allows me to advance and retard the cam enough so we get the best drivability out of it without sacrificing low end loss, and we can get some top end. Obviously it is limited, we don't have the full range of motion, but it allows us to keep some of that low end torque that we usually lose when we go with a cam. So that's the beauty about this thing. It drives like stock. It doesn't need a crazy converter to get most of the power out of it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm running the truck on the dyno. We're doing what I like to call a VE sweep. So what that does is I need to hit as many cells as I can to get the data for the fuel. So when we do a cam like this, it changes the volumetric efficiency of the engine, and what that does is it allows it to suck more air in at certain RPM, at certain map pressure. So I always do this with all my cam vehicles, just because it's easier when the VE table and the MAF table collaborate together. So this is always my first procedure, making sure fuel is good. Once I'm happy and have enough data for all the cells, as many cells as I can, we move on to wide open tuning, wide open throttle. And that's the fun part. That's what you guys like to see. That's when I'm doing the pulls and getting out all the power we can out of it. So I'm about done. Everything is actually pretty close. So let's get to doing some pulls after this. All right, so let's check the truck out, guys. Like I said, it's a 6.0, short tube headers, stock cats. It's nice and dropped. It's vortecMAX, so it is the HD. It's not too bad. Yeah, I forgot it has the exhaust dump. But overall, we got a pretty nice chop from the cam. I actually had to kind of amplify the chop. The VVT doesn't really chop that much. So let's get to doing some wide open pulls. So we're gonna start off, we're gonna rev it up to 5,800 just to start, make sure everything is solid there, and we'll slowly keep increasing until we figure out what the max RPM is we're making power. These cams are rated up to 6,500, 6,600 sometimes, but if you don't have the exhaust to flow with them, if you don't have the proper parts to work in combination with them, a lot of times we can't rev them up that high. As we saw yesterday, I did have, well, yesterday for me, I don't know when you guys will see that video, I did have a cam that was rated up to 7,000 and I was only seeing 6,300 out of it. A lot of that, like I said, has to do with the combination of parts that's in the vehicle. With this one, I think our biggest problem is going to be the Flowmaster muffler on it. It's chambered, creates a huge amount of back pressure, and the stock cats, we usually like to run high flows when we are revving the engine this high, well, higher than OE standards. So I believe all that may cause a little restriction, and it's not going to allow us to rev up to the full power band, but we're about to find out. That is the beauty of the dyno tunes, that we get to see what this combination makes and how far we can push it. When you're street tuning, you go by the feel of your butt, so we call it the butt dyno. The problem is there's way too many variables in the street and stuff like that. The dyno is in a more controlled area and allows us to minimize variables like that. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so as expected, I didn't actually anticipate grabbing this much airflow, so it is running me slightly on the leaner side. So yeah, this cam is moving quite some air because I did richen it up from the stock tune, but I didn't anticipate this much extra airflow. so it did run me into a 13s. I had timing somewhat conservative, so we're actually going to rev it up to 64. I went ahead and corrected for the link conditions, so we added more airflow. I added an extra 10%, just overshooting, so we can have plenty of fuel and continue to make some power. So I like to run these trucks around 12.5 because it's a lot of weight. Optimal AFR is 12.8, but we never know how these people run them, if they're going to be running back to back or not. So I generally run them around 12.5, 12.3, keep them on the safer side. Overall, this truck is responding really good. I should be done in no time. I just love it when we get cars with no issues. So this time around, we're going to rev it up to 6,400. I am running it 10% richer, so let's see what kind of gains we get. Okay, so this pull, I was trying to go up to 6,400, but the transmission didn't let me, so that was actually my mistake. Usually on these cars, when they have the 4L60, I can, for the most part, rev it up to whatever RPM I want, as long as I'm telling it on the scanner that I want to get stuck in second gear. For some reason, with these newer ones, it is not letting me, so I'm actually going to have to increase the shift point RPM and mile per hour so that it allows me to stay in the gear I want. So we're gonna go ahead and flash that. But the good news is the AFR was at 12.3, 12.5, just as I wanted. So like I said, overall it's going really smooth. With the additional airflow that I have, I did take out some timing. So well, didn't take out timing, it didn't give me more timing because it moved me lower into the cylinder air mass table in the spark table, which is to be expected because we are telling the computer, you know what, we're moving more air. So we went from we're probably in the 56s, 60 cylinder grams per second. Now we're in the 77s, so that's quite some extra airflow. So that will drop us from 21 degrees we were seeing earlier to 17 we're seeing now. So that did cost me some power. Obviously all that is going to get corrected, and that's what I'm about to do next. We're going to bump it up to 22 degrees now that the AFR is where I like it, and we're going to rev it up to 6,400. So let's check. Alright guys, remember how I said about the beauty of having variable valve timing? So this is what I was talking about. Check it out. If we had a fixed rate cam, this is what the first curve would have looked like. This was using as close to stock angles that we were seeing. So actually let me hide the one I'm actually trying to show you guys. So this two right here, we don't have much low end torque or horsepower, right? So actually let's use that one. This was after dialing in timing and AFR obviously, and this one right here was just by messing with valve timing. Valve timing alone, by retarding it down low, gave us approximately 288, 268, 20 foot-pounds, and we're looking at 227, 211, 16 horsepower. So that's by being able to adjust the valve or the cam. We were moving it back and forth. So down low, we want to be able to have the cam as retarded as possible so we can have that exhaust closing a little bit later and allowing to suck in as much air as possible. So when we have a fixed cam without VVT, we can't do that because we are fixed to one solid angle. With VVT, it allows us to manipulate it and move it back and forth. With the facer that goes on there, it fills up with oil pressure and it moves the cam back and forth. So by messing with variable cams, it allows us to gain some of that low end power that we would have lost. So with cams, as we know, if we want high end horsepower, we have to sacrifice low end when they're push rod or single overheads. VVT allows us to keep some of that horsepower. Obviously we can't go as aggressive as we would with a non-VVT cam because we do have piston to valve clearance issues, but we fix them with what's called a limiter. So it's this little piece of metal that goes in the facer and it doesn't allow the facer to face to its full angle or rate of motion, or whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, this truck is about wrapped up. AFR was solid, timing was right at 26 degrees. There was no knock. Overall, it was a pretty easy truck, minimal headaches, if any. So all that's really left is to test drive it. So let's take it out for a spin. And other than that, I say we are solid to go. I may mess with the cam slightly more to see if I can get some of that, some more horsepower out of it. But I think where I have it is pretty optimal. Actually, let me mess with it a little bit around 54, because that's where I didn't see much gain. So maybe around 54 to 6800, the cam actually likes to be slightly more retarded. So and I don't mean that in any offensive term, it's just a proper term to dictate well, it's just cam motion. So we gonna go ahead and retard it 2 more degrees, and hopefully we don't sacrifice too much in the 4400 4800 area. Actually, let's do that. So let's flash this and let's give it one more try. Overall, this was a pretty good cam. I did have to give it some ghost cam to get it to chop nice, but the results are there, man. It's a big ass tank with a 4L60 in second gear, and I'm seeing upwards of 330 horsepower. So as you guys know, the bigger the truck, the longer the drive shaft and all that, the more drivetrain losses we have, so we don't make as much horsepower as we would as it would be in a single cab. But yeah, let's do one more pull and let's take it for a spin. Well guys, I did get some of that little power back. I phased it from 4800 and up just to smooth it, and it did give me some more torque and some more horsepower. Obviously we can see it because we are seeing more air because it did lean me out to 12.7. So it's a combination of all this that is giving me the extra horsepower. But other than that, this truck is about done. I don't think I'll be able to get any more out of it. So we are gonna go ahead and call it here, and we will take it for a test drive. So I have it shifting around 6600. I am going to lower it because I'm seeing peak power right at 6000, which is not bad. I was expecting the cam to rev a little bit higher, but I'll take it. Like I said, we are very restricted on the exhaust, and that Flowmaster just doesn't like to flow, ironically, as much exhaust as you would get out of a Magna Flow or a Borla. And I'm not name dropping, but those are most of the mufflers that we run on newer EFI cars because they are flow through, they don't have restriction. Carbon if you want to be obnoxiously loud. But yes, we will call it quits here because of the muffler. I don't think I'm allowed to rev it that much higher. So let's lower the shift points and take it out for a spin. Alright guys, so I'm on the test drive. I just pulled it out of the dyno. We are about to figure out how good it drives. I actually think I'm actually gonna have to lower the idle speed because I have it set to 700 in gear, and this thing wants to drive off on its own slightly. So like I said, a lot of these things is what happens when I do my bass tunes. So I'm so used to having cams where they need a lot of airflow, where they need a higher RPM. With these, it doesn't require that much. So we're gonna go ahead and correct that. That's what we always test drive. But like I said, this is a great cam, especially for those of you that daily drive, don't want to get a crazy converter, or you tow and stuff like that. If it's your work vehicle or something like that, and for some reason, which is bound to happen, your DOD lifters decide to collapse, it's a common failure point for all these trucks. It is a great cam to go with because, like I said, you retain like stock drivability, you pick up some of that high-end horsepower that you want, and it drives pretty great. There's nothing I can really complain about it. You don't need a converter, because I always get those cams where even though they're a truck cam, they're a torque cam and this and that, without the VVT, you do need the converter, because from 1000 to 2400, the car or truck is just lazy. A lot of times you get like a little buck here and there. This one, honestly, the customer's not even gonna notice he has a cam until he floors it, and when he comes to a stop and he hears that chop. So overall, it's a great cam. I'm really happy with it. I'm pretty sure we could have gotten way better numbers if we had just had a better flowing muffler, but hey, customer just came in for the cam. We can't, we didn't want to upsell or anything. Like I said, it has short tube, it has shorties, so they're not even the long tube headers, and it has a stock cats, so there's a lot of extraction on the exhaust side, but it's all emission compliant, so this truck will have no issues getting to emissions. Yeah, like, I mean, as you guys seen, I haven't had to rev it up on crazy amounts to get it to move. So let's see how it does under wide open. Let's turn off the AC and let's give it a little go. Alright, so it moves really good. Shifting, I'm probably gonna make it shift a little more aggressive. This was pretty weak. There was no really give, there was no push, but hey, like I said, this is why we test drive. We want to make sure the customer gets as good of a quality product. Then again, I can't go too crazy. It's still a 4L60 behind this, and there's a crazy amount of weight to move. It is a CrewMAX, we have to remember that. Pushing, I don't know why I keep showing you guys the speedometer and tach. It's a 6.0 with the cam, pushing 320, and a lot more torque out of a 4L60. So yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. So I'm not gonna go too crazy, but we do want to shift up a little bit faster. That delay in the shift was pretty annoying. So I'm going back to the shop and we'll rerun this. So I think 2-3 more pulls and we should be ready to go. So yeah, this will conclude today's video. I think I've already bored you guys with a lot of information. So if you guys have any questions as to any of the things I said in this video, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, guys. This is what motivates us to keep going. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week.